The world adored him. A lean silhouette in top hat and tails, a roguish grin that belonged on every marquee. But within a few heartbeats of greeting, his co-stars would retreat as if a skunk had wandered on set. Hey, wounded on. By age 32, nearly every one of his pearly whites had been extracted by a dentist's ruthless hand, leaving him bound to unwieldy dentures. They pinched, they loosened. Worst of all, they breathed life into a stench so potent it earned its own legend. No mint, no mouthwash. Gable insisted such niceties would dull his intensity. Sophia, the Italian screen goddess, whispered to directors to keep her just out of arm's reach between takes. And yet, no soul dared challenge Hollywood's monarch. How far would you go to stay on your throne? Her face was carved by ambition, cheek hollows deep enough to cradle a secret. To achieve that sculpted look, she sacrificed her teeth, one extraction after another, then filled the gaps with harsh cement and capped them into place. Pain flooded her gums, swelling her upper lip into a permanent pout that became her signature. In her youth, that lip was a triumph of studio artistry. In her twilight years, it was the badge of a decade-long infection. All the while, she scrubbed her hands until they bled and polished her mirror until it gleamed, yet her own breath, sour with bacterial revolt, would sometimes send even her most loyal makeup artist scampering for a breath mint. What price beauty when it comes at the expense of your own health? Glamour dripped from her platinum waves, but backstage, she was a different story. Days could pass before a bath. Undergarments were optional, and deodorant never crossed her dressing room threshold. One leading man, himself notorious fastidiousness, found her aroma so repellent he begged off any off-camera embraces. Her artist, ever resourceful, stocked baby wipes and scented powders to discreetly freshen her between takes. Between takes. Imagine that. The world swooned at her curves, yet those closest battled a lingering haze of unwashed sweat. Is intoxicating allure enough to forgive such neglect? Once the dapper belle of every premiere, Hughes transformed into a walking sanitarium. His obsessive-compulsive tendencies escalated until he donned tissue boxes as slippers, let his nails spiral into claws, and avoid soap like a plague survivor. Months without a proper wash became his norm. He retreated naked into a self-styled clean zone, surrounding himself with jars of all things, urine. Yet he demanded flawless skin from his paramours. Oh, how does one man's fetish for purity collide with his own descent into squalor? On screen, he vaulted ship riggings with fearless grace. Off camera, the musk of binge drinking clung to him like an unwelcome stowaway. Costumes he wore for days fermented with his perspiration, so wardrobe wizards began building hidden panels to swap out mid-scene. One bold co-star slipped him a flask of mouthwash in her boudoir, an offer he accepted with a rueful grin. Can charm withstand the assault of a body odor so fierce it could sail a galleon? He bared his soul to the camera, yet refused to rinse it away. Away. Weighty roles and heavier moods saw him skipping baths for weeks, an earthy rebellion against polished facades. During grueling jungle shoots, his smell became as much a character as any warrior he portrayed. Directors leaned in, makeup artists held their breath, and co-stars tiptoed around him. Sir, was this stench a symptom of genius or just stubborn neglect? His scarlet sweater was his armor of authenticity, years deep in grime, each stain a testament to defiance. Crew whispers claimed he went weeks between washings, convinced that filth fueled his on-screen fury. One day he'd be a brooding heartbreaker, the next a dusty ghost haunting every dusty corner he'd passed. When the director cornered him about complaints of odor, Dean only shrugged, asking, doesn't suit my image. Can rebellion be so deeply entwined with neglect? Amphetamines for energy, barbiturates for sleep. That was MGM prescription for her. But at a cost. Manic highs left her manicured. Crushing lows saw her skipping Hygiene altogether. So one day, she sparkled as Dorothy. The next, she surfaced on set unwashed, hair matted, breath sour from alcohol-laced cigarettes. A devoted assistant trailed her like a guardian angel, reminders in one hand, soap in the other. How fragile is the line between stardom and self-destruction? Blue suede shoes shined like mirrors, but his smile revealed yellowed enamel and breath that could wilt flowers. Prescription pills fogged his memory, and his motivation to scrub his teeth. On-screen kisses were choreographed illusions. Co-stars tilted their faces ever so slightly, obscuring the grimace they forced into their smiles. Can an icon's aura withstand the assault of his own decaying smile? Her violet eyes convinced Rome and 20th century audiences of her regal purity. Yet, when her heart broke, so did her bathing routine. Weeks without a soak were masked by clouds of French perfume. One thoughtful filmmaker arranged for her trailer's tub to be lavishly primed. No direct mention of hygiene, just an invitation, too tempting to refuse. Ha! What does it say when love itself becomes an incentive to wash away your sorrow? He crafted the most endearing shabby gentleman on screen, but, off camera, he sometimes blended into the character he performed. His second wife later claimed he'd vanish into his work for days, emerging as unkempt as the tramp himself. Yet for premieres, he'd don a three-piece suit and blend into high society, leaving fans to wonder where the man ended and the myth began. Can art and life ever be so perfectly indistinguishable? A cigarette drooped from his lips like a vice he couldn't shake. Whiskey soothed his throat, smoke contaminated his breath. Between takes, leading ladies lean back, inhaling through parted lips, yearning for authenticity, yet praying not to inhale too deeply. He understood his flaw, but deemed it collateral damage in his pursuit of gritty realism. When does dedication cross the line into self-sabotage? Studio surgeons plucked hair follicles to alter her hairline, leaving her scalp raw and angry. Flakes dusted her co-star's shoulders as her fiery locks framed a crimson visage. Stylists airbrushed her part with flesh-toned powders. Wigs hid the itch she dared not scratch on camera. What price did she pay so the world could picture her as perfection? Before the crash, his face was a canvas of classic handsomeness. After, pain and pills clouded his will to care. He arrived on set disheveled, clothes bearing days' worth of wear. So, makeup teams fought a two-front battle, concealing scars and masking odors. His closest friend arranged for round-the-clock aides to remind him that a star too needs simple routines. When trauma steals your reflection, can you ever find yourself again? She swaggered through life like it was one grand party. Baths were optional, bourbon mandatory. Each runway of decadence left her skin dry, her spirit parched. She claimed water dulled her performance. Co-stars remembered the wild haze of whiskey and jasmine shampoo only when it suited her. For her, rebellion extended beyond roles. It was etched into every pore. Is defiance enough to justify deliberate neglect? Behind every glittering smile lay a story no publicist dared publish. These legends taught us that perfection is a gilded cloak. Underneath can lie decay, drama, and downright repulsion. Which revelation curdled your admiration? Drop your choice below and brace yourself for our next dive into the hidden undercurrents of Tinseltown's brightest lights, where sometimes the darkest truths reek the loudest.